Doing pretty good. We have a couple of interesting topics to talk about today. I think we should start off with what recently happened with Twitter. So basically, Twitter, um, Elon Musk just bought a 9.2% stake in Twitter, and the stock increased by over 40% this past week. And basically, his motivation for buying this stock in Twitter is that he's a proponent of free speech. And recently, people were getting deplatformed for Twitter for various different reasons. And basically, he's trying to restore faith in Twitter, the social media platform, and restore faith in free speech and basically democratize free speech. So, basically, Twitter in its early days, right, of Twitter, Twitter was basically it was founded on under the premise of free speech, and now recently we see Twitter getting away from free speech, basically deplatforming people, basically censoring people, taking away their free speech rights. You got Trump that was taken down from Twitter and basically deplatformed and censored because of the January 6th Capitol riots. Some people think that he should have got taken down. Some people think that he shouldn't have gotten taken down. I think it's pretty clear that he shouldn't have gotten taken down. He basically said that people should peacefully protest, and he didn't encourage people to go into the Capitol and riot like some other people expect. Then you got Alex Jones, who was basically censored and deplatformed off Twitter. And this is more reasonable that he was actually taken down and censored. He's basically this guy that was saying that the Sandy Hook killings of children were like fake and they weren't real. But the problem is when you censor people like Alex Jones, is the line slowly moves more and more to the right. So people don't want to make the connection between Alex Jones and say an ordinary citizen in Wisconsin who gets deplatformed. But slowly and slowly over time, people use Alex Jones, then someone slightly less crazy, someone like slightly less crazy than Alex Jones. They use them as justifications for taking somebody off the platform. So basically, Elon Musk wants to defend free speech and democratize free speech. So he bought this stake in Twitter. And believe it or not, in the early days of Twitter, Twitter was actually founded under the premise of free speech. It was in their core corporate governance documents that basically they wanted to defend free speech and democratize it. And this was a big Dick Costolo. I think he was basically like a very early CEO. He was basically like a huge proponent of this. And so basically another motivation I think that Elon Musk uh, bought Twitter was this news publication website, the Babylon Bee, and he gets his like it's like this right wing kind, slightly right wing satire piece. He gets most of his information and comedy from this. They basically just recently took down the Babylon Bee for saying that this transgender woman was the man of the year, and they refused to restore the account unless the Babylon Bee took down this tweet, which they refused to do. So basically, the question I want to propose to you is: do you think that these social media platforms, these big tech companies, these private enterprises have the right to censor people since it's their own platform and the Constitution doesn't apply to private enterprises? Or do you think that they don't have the right since the framers of the Constitution didn't expect the internet to be the place of public discourse, and they didn't expect the internet to be a political discourse space and to basically take over as the de facto public square? What do you think about this censorship?
So I think in the current day and age, presence on the internet is like very important. I think it's pretty much impossible to be any type of public figure, any sort of large entity, whether that be commercial or, like I said, a public figure. It's very hard to protect your image and to protect your reputation and grow your audience and grow your base without having any sort of online presence. So my take more so is like all social media should be kind of treated as like a public utility at this point. It's just become like a really weird space where you had all these companies kind of come up out of nothing, right? Think about how Facebook was founded. Facebook was literally created. It was like based on like Hot or Not, right, on Harvard's campus, and then spread to other campuses, other Ivy League schools, and then gradually all campuses, and then it became, they opened the door to everyone. And then even looking at like the founding of Twitter, like it literally started as a way to like find raves and to like party, right? So it's kind of funny how it just like took over and became this big thing. Like obviously the growth to that is insane, and like what they built in the process sort of was like a happy accident for a lot of people. But as far as censorship's concerned, I think no one should be censored. Like the best way to fight bad speech or people who are saying things that you don't necessarily agree with is with good speech. Like people who disagree with Alex Jones, as crazy as he is, like he still has a right to say those things and to do whatever he wants, because just like you have the right to criticize him, he has the right to say those things. And if he wants to go out and say all this crazy shit, as long as he's not inciting violence or like actively ordering like his followers to attack people or certain groups of people, I think that he has every right to say what he wants. And then we'll all go, well, he's a fucking lunatic. Like, why would you listen to him? It's interesting that you brought up Jones, because Jones is actually the most censored person in internet history. But meanwhile, on Amazon, you can go and buy a copy of Mein Kampf, which is Hitler's autobiography. And he tries to, um, I mean, if you read it, it's pretty much him just looking to garner sympathy from people about like his situation, his upbringing, um, and how he came to despise, people who were followers of Judaism. And it's just like he tries to invoke like empathy, but the main thing is that it's freaking Hitler. Like, why are they like, if they're gonna sell books and stuff that's based around him, then like why are you banning Jones? Like with what Jones did and what he was inciting, it's like nowhere near the level of incitement that like Hitler garnered.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. Like basically, they sell Hitler's diary, I think, and other books by Hitler, and basically, there's these Nazi groups that basically you could argue that the books are inciting violence in and of themselves. But I still don't agree with that. They should ban even Nazi books because it's a record of history, and I think it's important for people to see history, what's going on, so that they don't repeat the same mistakes and such. So I'm a proponent of, in order to fight bad speech, you fight it with good speech instead of censoring people and their ideas. Because when you censor people and their ideas, you actually give more validity to it, and you the movement grows even faster than you wanted it to by shutting it down. You can't censor people's speech. It just lights people on fire and causes the movement to grow faster and faster.
I completely agree with you. And the other thing is that I like that Elon took up this position, right? So he bought for those of you who don't know, he bought 9% of Twitter. It was like 9.2%. And now
And he
he's
also
the,
got a board seat.
Mhm.
He also got a board seat too.
Yeah. So he also filed reports. He initially filed, and like, from what I heard, when he initially filed, he didn't file with the SEC to be like an activist investor, but he quickly like retracted that, and now he's an activist investor within Twitter. So now he's pushing to make changes to the platform, which is awesome, because you see a lot of people maligned on Twitter. The problem with social media is not only are they like private enterprise and they can kind of censor things to whichever way they want, and obviously like you said, they don't have to. They're not necessarily bound by the Constitution. It's not like they're a governmental entity, but so there's this weird gray area where they are allowed to censor people. But what you typically see in Silicon Valley, and we've seen this with various other different companies, like Facebook's a great example, right? So Twitter and Facebook, they'll typically censor people who have like differing viewpoints than like the echo chambers that they're looking to promote. So you'll see people who are on the right, and also too, YouTube is a big fucking well, we like YouTube. I'll put it that way. So Facebook and Twitter are great examples, because they will typically censor people who have differing opinions than those in Silicon Valley, and they'll go out of their way to censor them, and they'll shadow ban people, and they play all these games, and really it doesn't hurt those people because everyone